we're going to start, just give it a couple more minutes. They asked me to be very diligent about being on time and off times. I've been warned ahead of time. So before I start, let me understand who the audience is a little bit. How many developers do we have? Any restaurant operators? Well, you work with Pizza Hut, you can say operator. Sure. Anybody else that's interested in voice? What's your background?
UX people.
I'm sorry?
UX designer.
UX, UI? Okay, cool. Anybody else? Product manager? Good. Anyone else? Marketer? Good. I'm sorry? Consultant? Cool. All right, so I'm not a developer. I'm an operator by background. I'm an investor in restaurant technology, have been for the last decade. Before that, I was a banker. So I've had a kind of unique career. Grew up in Silicon Valley. Owned and operated a bunch of restaurants, and then went to Wall Street for about 23 years in private equity, and ended up back financing restaurant chains. So I can't get out of this business, something about it. So about 11 years ago, I started a company that was in the digital media space that was right at the beginning of food and restaurant tech. And we helped pioneer social media for the restaurant industry. And this is a lot like how I feel back in 2008 when we helped pioneer social media. I mean, the first talk I gave was in response to a request by the California Restaurant Association to give a presentation at their annual conference. And I gave a presentation to the board, which has about 50 different operators in it. And then there was at a big conference, you've been to these expos where they kind of cordon off or curtain off an area. It's really not a great environment for having a presentation. But the talk was restaurant social media. It can't be more explicit. And they had seats for about 100, maybe 150 there. 6 people showed up. This is 2008. That just tells you how long ago it was, but how far we've come. Social media is pervasive. It's critical to a restaurant and retail, to almost any business these days. So I kind of look at this as kind of the gate opening. And so 2 years ago when we founded Orderscape, it was the notion that I could bring operations, expertise, curiosity. Grew up in Silicon Valley, so it's kind of in the water out there. I see opportunity. We're definitely early. We knew we were going to be early. But our focus has always been food service. How do you bring voice? How do you engage? And the 3 things that the restaurant industry needs more than anything else, and not necessarily in this order, is they need to increase sales any way they can. They need to reduce costs any way they can. And they need to understand who their customer is. And almost any business needs those 3 things, but if one of those 3 things is important to a restaurant, they'll listen to you. So voice is early. We've been at this for 2 years, and I was just telling my friend Jeff that my CTO, who's the developer side of this, if he, interestingly enough, he said almost 3 weeks ago, he said, if I would have known then, 2 years ago, how hard this was going to be to bring full menu ordering to a restaurant environment, I probably would have said no. But now we've stuck, and we've made a lot of progress. And my talk today is really about, our approach to conversational commerce, kind of the why, how it works in our environment, and what we've had to be able to solve technically without being technical along the way to make this work. So we have about 20 minutes worth of this. I have 2 small videos to show you what we've done on Google Assistant in the areas of search and also use cases. So today, this is one of the catalysts. Motivation for us is that 56% of these user assistants say they want to use voice. This is from a study by Capgemini, which is a pretty interesting report. If you want to drop your card off to me, I'll send you the report. It's all about conversational commerce, not just food service, but across the board. This was our catalyst. This was our motivation. And the 56% of the folks out there that use a voice assistant, whether it's on a mobile device or in their home or office, today in 2018, what does that tell you about demand? But there is no supply. So the problem is they can't order right now. There's a handful of restaurant brands out there that have had either the capability or the budget to be able to invest in conversational commerce. It's not a trivial environment. Starbucks, for example, has an incredible tech team, but that's strictly reorder. Reorder is fairly straightforward, but you're limited to the last 3 things that you've ordered. But if you want to order a pizza, Let's say you go to Domino's and you order a pizza, and you always order pepperoni pizza and black olives. If you change one item, a guest comes over and they say they want green bell peppers, you can't reorder. You have to start from scratch, or you cannot order. So only a handful of brands have been able to figure out full menu ordering. We could have launched a year earlier with just reorder, but our UI/UX experts said, look, that's a great experience for the developer because it's easier. But the best experience for the consumer is going to be full order. That's where it's going. So we buckled down and reinvested for another year to be able to have the ability to offer full menu ordering. So menus are a mess. I mean, it's structured data, but menus are horrible. We picked the worst possible vertical. It's not that I chose restaurants. I happen to be in the restaurant business, so it kind of chose me. But it's structured data, but it's a mess. There is no UPC code. There's 1,000 different ways to order a cheeseburger. There's 1.5 million ways to order pepperoni. There is no taxonomy. In 2018, there is no fully standardized taxonomy for the restaurant industry. So these are just part of the challenges. So since menus are not voice-enabled, we have to tackle that one menu at a time, or do we, to scale. So in the couple of videos we're going to show you is how we approach two combinations, search and commerce. Commerce without search is a nightmare in voice because there's no context. The intent just isn't there. So even Messenger doesn't get it right. Google does not do food search very well. So if you ask, I'm hungry, which is one of the 4 use cases of intent, you're going to get a list of restaurants. It just thinks that you're hungry, and it's going to throw some guesses out there. Some of these are paid for. Some of these are just the algorithm saying that Subway is important for food. So if you say something a little bit more specific, like, I want fettuccine Alfredo, you're still going to come up with a list of restaurants that Google thinks that may have fettuccine Alfredo. Mario's Pizza? Maybe, maybe not. But even if you wanted fettuccine Alfredo, what you'd have to do is click on one of those websites. You have to find the menu, cull through the menu looking for fettuccine Alfredo. Not the best search environment. I want food. I want it now. If you go to Google, these were all using voice. But if you go to Google, whether it's in a web browser or a mobile app, you get the same thing, but you also get recipes. You get Wikipedia entries, you get recipes. It doesn't really understand what you're looking for. So I still want fettuccine Alfredo, but I want it now. In a voice environment, I'm going to go right to the item. You don't have time to be able to have this long conversation with a consumer. They'll lose interest. So voice is dramatically different. So in Orderscape's environment, I want fettuccine Alfredo. You get fettuccine Alfredo. You go right there. And we'll show that in our video clip on how this works. So our objective is to make conversation superior to what's existing now, and we have to have very good search for our commerce engine to really work. And our goal is to bring tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of restaurants together with millions of hungry consumers. That's massive scale. Our original business plan wasn't this. This is much better, and it was an evolution of what we already did. So the first skill we developed was for Round Table Pizza. How many people know this brand? It's mostly a West Coast brand, but they have 450 restaurants. Old, 50-year-old company, old ways. Good news, they've been acquired by a new company with fresh ideas. So this took us into building skills. And we thought, okay, 450 restaurants, build a full menu ordering for pizza, which is the hardest, by the way, of any skills. If you look at the platforms and portals that build these online ordering solutions, pizza is the last thing they want to do because there's so many permutations and variables. So we started in the restaurant business, and then we started in the restaurant on the pizza side just to make it hard for us. So 450 restaurants, not a bad start. Then we added Fazoli's. Published this in December. It's at 230 restaurants, mostly a franchise company. Now we have 780 restaurants. Okay, we're starting to think this is traction, this is good. But at the end of the day, this is just 2 menus, 2 restaurants. 780 locations, but 2 menus. That's not broad enough. That's not scale enough for you to say, I'm hungry, and have a restaurant near you. So this was a good learning experience, but it wasn't enough for us. The other interesting thing about facts is that we've been voracious readers of studies and surveys. 2 years ago, there was nothing out there. Today, there's like 20 stories a day. A lot of these things are on the same Gartner, Capgemini reports. But 60.5 million people in the US already use digital assistants. They say they want to order something. E-commerce. Commerce is absolutely huge. We have a partnership with Amazon on a managed basis, and they just really want to push us towards e-commerce because that's good for them. Search is also something interesting. Analysts are projecting that by 2020, 50% of all search on the mobile device will be voice-enabled, which means you have to voice-enable your catalog, which means that menus are nothing more than a catalog. Whether this was retail or auto parts, menus are nothing more than a catalog that need to have structure. So we had to go back and build a taxonomy for the restaurant industry that didn't exist. I've talked to the National Restaurant Association about being a standards board, something like the IAB, be able to have them improve on this thing, have them make this thing the standard. And if you talk to the single platforms and the Yext of the world, everybody raises their hand and say, we want to be on that board. We want somebody else to do it. We want somebody else to set the standard because we all win. Because in a true environment in the restaurant industry, you want to syndicate your menu everywhere. You want to syndicate your hours of operations everywhere. Those things are really important, but they didn't exist for voice. This is why it's taken us 2 years to get here. But I love this 36.5 billion meals, that's a year. So there's a demand out there for menu and ordering, but you can't do it yet. You can do it at Fazoli's and Round Table, TGI Fridays, Wingstop, Pizza Hut, Domino's, and a few others, but not like this. So there's still some technical challenge that we had to solve. The first one is we had to do full menu, because limited menu, reorder menu just doesn't work. Reorder is kind of a byproduct of full menu because it tracks and understands you as a concierge. So we had to solve full menu voice ordering on multiple gateways. So we started on Alexa, but we moved quickly towards Google Assistant. In fact, the first gateway we built was on Slack, which was really interesting for group ordering. Then we went to Messenger, and we didn't think the UX experience was that good, yet it will be. And then we got wrapped up in voice and figured that voice is the future, so we spent almost 100% of our time there. So we solved that, full menu. That's hard enough. And then collections. We have to be able to create an entirely new transaction. It's what Alexa calls a super skill. It's interactive, it's intelligent, and it's transactional. That was really hard to do. We had to be able to register a guest for the first time. We had to accept a credit card, vault that credit card, be able to take the order, be able to collect funds, be able to send that order off into a shopping cart. And once it was in the shopping cart, we had to process it into our partners, either through a POS or through a platform, and have it go out to the restaurant. So there's a lot of moving parts here. So we solved the collections part. Then we had to figure out how to aggregate the restaurants, because going door to door with restaurants could take 10 years. I don't have 10 years. Anybody else has 10 years to do this. That's already been done. So you look at the aggregators, the folks that have the platforms that already integrated into the restaurants. These are the large platforms like Olo, like Tilster and Onisys, and Monkey Media, among others. There's a lot of third parties out there, but these are the platforms that power the website for restaurant brands. So when you go to Chili's, for example, and you know that you want to order from Chili's, and you click on the button that says takeout, whatever powers that is a white label service provider. And in many cases, it's Olo for chains. So they already have the connection. They already have the integration with the point of sale. They already have the ability to push an order out to the restaurant, and it's seamless. Nothing changes at the restaurant level. So we had to be able to find a way to aggregate restaurants. So we've done that. So we've aggregated with our partnerships well over 100,000 restaurants now. They're not all voice enabled, but they will be soon. So we've solved that problem. Distribution, how to get the menu and the order from Alexa or Google Assistant out to the restaurant. That's what we did with platform partners. We can do this with portals. And the way the restaurant industry is, the digital side, the online ordering industry is set up, it's bifurcated between the portals, which are B2C facing, like the Grubhubs of the world, DoorDash, Uber Eats, Amazon restaurants, and then the platforms that actually power the restaurants. That is a white label solution. So we intend not to integrate our technology into portals. We intend to integrate our technology and have into platforms that power restaurants. So distribution is something we've solved. So we know how to get it from the order to the restaurant. And when a food server sees the order or a cook sees the order, it's seamless to them. An order's an order to them. It's just another third party. There's nothing they have to do, nothing they have to learn. There's no tablets that we have to put behind the cash register. It just goes right into the point of sale. And the last thing we had to solve is search, and it's not totally solved yet. This is challenging. If Google hasn't figured out how to do this, and they probably could, for food, they also haven't figured it out for retail. They also haven't figured it out for apples. They also haven't figured it out for t-shirts. It's very, very contextually relevant search about food is where we're focused. So the taxonomy had to be developed. Just left the main conference where they were talking about intent. So to be able to put search together to make it relevant for food, we had to figure out what use cases are really out there. How do people order food? And there's really 4 primary ways people order food. The first one is you know what you want and you know where to get it. I want a cheeseburger and fries at Chili's. Pretty straightforward. Second use case is I don't know what I want, but I want to go to Chili's. They'll have what I want. I just don't know. Third one is I know what I want, but I have no idea where I want to go. I want a cheeseburger, but a restaurant close to me is most important. And the last one is I'm hungry. I have no idea what I want, and I have no idea where I'm going. So those are really the 4 only primary use cases. When you look at that as intent, that becomes the basis for our entire search algorithm. So how do we solve this? We solve it with multiple gateways, but search is something that we've had to build from scratch, barely using machine learning to build our taxonomy. But to be able to have good search, you have to have good execution. So we have multiple gateways for you to order from. In a mobile environment, we have Google Assistant. In a mobile environment now with iOS as well as Android, Alexa works on your mobile device now, thankfully. So it's not just a device on your desk. The other one is branded mobile apps, which is really exciting. Being able to push out a microphone to any branded app. Let's say it's Olo, or let's call it Uber Eats with McDonald's. Be able to push a microphone out to every one of the downloaded mobile apps that McDonald's has, and to be able to offer the consumer the choice to either use their thumbs to order or use their microphone. And once you have the microphone there, then it solves one of those 3 things I was talking about before: sales, decreased costs, and get to know your customer better. It's direct connection to the restaurant for FAQs and guest services, and that's one of the easiest apps that you can build, or skills that you can build, that retailers want, merchants want. What are your hours of operation? Is there anything vegan on your menu? Are you hiring? Things of that nature. FAQs, guest services that people ask for. Usually the employee with the least amount of tenure answers these questions, and it takes up space. So this is a labor issue. And of course, we have Google and Amazon. And we've looked at Cortana, we've looked at Siri. They're just not there yet. I think they will be. But if we have these 2 gateways as voice assistants, that covers most of the market at this point. So those are input. So how does it work? Now this is interesting because what we've done is clean this slide up a lot. It used to have a lot more arrows, so hopefully this works. And it's fairly straightforward. There's a lot going underneath here, but the Orderscape platform ingests thousands of menus at a time. And what we do is we standardize, we normalize this data. We create this massive graph database. If you've ever seen a graph database, they're pretty impressive. They just undulate. So we have to create categories and standardization and sections and understand how to order a cheeseburger. Now it helps having a food service background. It also helps having a food science background. And so we have some really smart people, some executive chefs, to help us understand the ingredients flow. So building that taxonomy helps us understand how to ingest menus and be able to put them into our graph database. So the customer will order food from thousands of restaurants. Again, we have over 100,000 that we brought into our system. We have 20,000 that we've enabled with voice, and that's 1.65 million ingredients that we've had to enable, which is pretty impressive for us to be able to say, I want a cheeseburger, or I want a pizza, or I want fettuccine Alfredo. So the customer would order from restaurants near you. You would say one of the 4 use cases, I'm hungry, or I want Chili's, or I want a cheeseburger. And it wouldn't take you to the restaurant, it would take you right to the menu item. And that's the video we're gonna show you. The third step is, the content management is by the platforms, not us. We want to avoid a lot of the landmines out there. We don't want to integrate into the point of sale unless we have to. Integration is difficult with point of sale. If we don't have to do that, somebody else has already done it, we're up for that. If we don't have to manage the content, managing menus, that's what Yext does. That's what Single Platform does. That's what Trayvon Group and many others do. Managing that messy content, updating the prices, because restaurant operators are not the best at keeping things going. They're really good at keeping hot food hot, cold food cold, and building product and having a great experience and being restaurateurs, but they're not the best at maintaining content. That's just the nature of it. Chains are obviously better than independents, and independents are about 70% of the marketplace. So we have to work the long tail to be able to have any type of relevance here. So managing that content, every time a restaurant changes their price or an ingredient or adds something to the menu, that has to be updated and changed. If it's maintained at the POS level or the platform level, then we can access it. We actually cache it every 30 minutes. The fourth step is restaurants receive the orders seamlessly. They prepare the food, hand it off to the customer, whether they want it delivered, pickup, curbside, doesn't really matter. And then payments happen almost simultaneously. We collect the funds, we take our fee, we send the money to the restaurant, everybody's happy. So it's pretty straightforward how our portal works. So I'm going to show you a couple of videos here. Instead of going through the entire 4 use cases, we've selected 2. One is we're going to show you the food portal comparison. This shows Orderscape versus Google in Semantic Search. In the second video, it's about 2 minutes long or 3 minutes long. It's about use case 3. I know what I want, but not where I want to go. Okay?
Hi, in this video I'd like to show you the difference between searching for food in existing portals and in Orderscape. So let's go. Let's start with Google. So here we just ask about fettuccine Alfredo and we get back an encyclopedia entry. If I alter the phrase a little bit, I get a recipe on how to make it. When I ask where I can find it, it sends me to Grubhub, so this must be some kind of a paid search result. When I ask to find it near me, I get a list of restaurants. Now let's look at Grubhub. Doing the same search for fettuccine Alfredo yields a list of restaurants. And so the only way to compare menu items between them is to jump into each restaurant separately, pop back up and back in. Very time consuming. Grubhub does a good thing by servicing fettuccine Alfredo matches to the top within this menu. But again, I have to jump back out and jump back into a new restaurant. Okay, so let's look at Olive Garden's web app. It turns out there's no search bar to search for menu items at the restaurant. So I can sort of look at the menu or start an order. Starting an order, it turns out, is non-trivial. So we select to go, we find a restaurant, and we continue. Turns out there are several menus by day part, and so I'm looking at pronto lunch. In the interest of time, we'll move on. Now I'd like to show you Orderscape in action. We launch the action, and we ask it where I can find fettuccine Alfredo. It immediately responds with all of the menu items nearby, regardless of restaurant. It also shows which restaurant each one contains, but it shows pricing, distance, and information about the product. So I've selected one, and I can instantly check out from that restaurant. Thanks very much.
So to be able to have the front end, which is the order, and the back end, which is the payment processing, is kind of the key. So search is critical. Commerce can't really happen without good search in a voice environment. And we've been able to figure out exactly where it goes. And whether it's really a cheeseburger or an onion ring, just with 1.65 million menu items we've been able to import, it gives us about 60% throughput there. So the next version is about another 3 million, another 4, I think it's 37,000 restaurant locations that we're adding. So the more content we have, the bigger our graph gets, the better our search is. And then we turn over our machine learning on top of that. So that's the exciting part, is what's next. So here's an example of what, not where. Okay, I want a fettuccine Alfredo, but I have no idea where I want to go.
Our research tells us that consumers know what they're hungry for before they decide where to get it. People want to know quickly what their local area can offer without having to dive into every restaurant's menu individually, which can be quite time-consuming and frustrating. So we think existing portals really have it backwards. They are restaurant-centric while we're food-centric. Okay, let's go.
Hi, Ted. Welcome to Orderscape.
I'm in the mood for chocolate.
I found 300 items matching chocolate, including a chocolate eclair. Pick one.
Notice the results are menu items, not restaurants. This is our food-centric search in action.
It lets the user focus on food first. Results also show the item's restaurant, distance, price, and description, and later will show ratings. In a voice-only context like Alexa, it's important to keep the conversation moving. So we only have time to really speak 3 to 5 results at a time. Relevance and ordering becomes super important to surface results the user is most likely to pick.
I'm in the mood for a burger.
I found 422 items matching burger, including a kimchi burger. Pick one or narrow with a protein like bacon, beef, chicken, or turkey.
This is suggestive search in action. It helps consumers narrow vague queries quickly from thousands of item results to just a few of interest in just 1 to 3 turns of dialogue. We suggest major ingredients found only from menus in the user's local area. We never make suggestions that are unavailable. Not all queries warrant suggestions, and when there are only a few results, there's really no need to display suggestions. The user can also edit his query by undoing added suggestions, removing any portions of the query, etc. He's in total control.
Chicken.
I found 47 items matching burger chicken, including a chicken burger. Pick one or narrow with the cheese like Swiss, mozzarella, Jack, or Gouda.
Swiss.
I found 4 items matching burger chicken Swiss, including a mushroom Swiss burger.
I'm in the mood for a sandwich.
I found 1,732 items matching sandwich, including a sojo sandwich. Pick one or narrow with the bread like pita, potato, white, or bagel.
Bagel.
I found 14 items matching sandwich bagel, including an OMG bagel with cream cheese.
Drop the bagel.
So here the user has the option to drop his previous suggestion and try something else. There are alternative ways of communicating this to the bot. You can say undo, try pita instead, or skip if disinterested in the bread category altogether to move on to protein or veggie, for example.
I'm in the mood for a chocolate dessert.
I found 125 items matching chocolate dessert, including a chocolate eclair. Pick one or narrow with a dessert like cake, cookie, ice cream, or mousse.
Mousse.
I found 10 items matching chocolate dessert mousse, including a chocolate mousse cake with cardamom.
So to wrap up, why is this important? Well, the voice economy is taking off, and consumers are demanding compelling, fast, and personalized services to help them quickly find the most relevant items to purchase. As more people migrate to voice, brands have to work harder to compete to be found in this new medium. We address consumer needs head-on and help brands get discovered. I hope you've enjoyed this demonstration. Thanks a lot.
Remember, use case 3 is about what, not where. So this is a little long, and in the true spirit of a consumer experience, it's really not going to operate that well. I mean, that way, the reason why we went through this long, to show you how deep you can go. You add a layer of AI and machine learning on top of this, it's going to remember that you prefer, if you like chocolate, that the last 2 times you ordered chocolate mousse, so that's probably going to come up sooner. So this is all about speed. This shows depth, breadth, and also opportunity. So Orderscape Voice Portal that we're launching in Q1 2019 is a first of a kind. It's voice first, it's food first. It offers these value propositions. It's massive menu selection, which is really exciting. If we can get to 100,000 fully voice-enabled restaurants by Q1, which I believe we can, that's like 8 million menu items. There isn't anything you can think of that we haven't been able to find that isn't going to be A, near you, or isn't going to be on the menu. And if it is, we're going to figure it out. Voice-enabled menus, we figured that out. Voice portal, food portal, mobile and web app. Really interesting. Have a voice cafe to compete out there for your business, but also your concierge. Voice search, curbside, delivery, carry out, these things are all here today. But this is basically becoming, or can become, your food concierge or your POS in a pocket. You can do that with Starbucks today. On at least 2 times, maybe 3 times a week, I just order my latte from Starbucks. I walk out of my office, and it's waiting for me. I skip the line, I've saved time, and I pre-order. Those are all things you can do with your point of sale in your pocket. So if you have the ability to just say, I want a pepperoni pizza with black olives, I want a Diet Pepsi, I want it to pick up, it can do that for you as you're walking to the restaurant or while you're sitting at home. These things are all available with Voice Portal. So this gives you an example of another use case for McDonald's. What if there was a microphone embedded on their app, like I mentioned before? It gives you total control of the user experience. The user can find information about the voice, and the value propositions are here. We would integrate with Uber Eats, which is their delivery partner. We can integrate directly into the point of sale at any McDonald's. We can add and integrate loyalty and rewards, payments, any third-party apps that they want, as long as it has a REST API, or at least an API in good shape, we can integrate it. The other thing that's interesting is there's 2 pain points for the restaurant operators. One is the expense of online takeout. It ranges anywhere from 8 to 30% if you include delivery. They're always complaining about the cost. They don't complain about the revenue coming in, but they complain about the cost. And there's a delta between that pain and suffering. But also data. They want data. If I'm Uber Eats or if I'm DoorDash or Grubhub, part of their intellectual property is that they own the customer. And that's both a threat and an opportunity to the restaurant industry. In this environment, we're happy to share transaction data because they have it, as long as it doesn't violate our terms of service or GDPR, and when we're in Europe. But customer and session data is new. Customer transaction data is what they order, how they order it. But the session data is really interesting because we log every activity that the user asks for. What they put in the cart, what they take out, what they drop that bagel, how many times they say, we register and log and send that to our machine learning capability to make the user experience that much better. We're happy to share that data with our customers. So McMike, this is something that we're looking at as well, is these kiosks that are popping up everywhere. They appeared in London long before they started appearing here. And I observed several people cross-demographic ordering at the kiosks, and they would stumble around a little bit. They had to kind of figure out the UI. And I went up to him and asked him informally. I said, so how was that? Was that fun? He goes, it was a pain, okay? Or other people would say, it's pretty cool. I've used it a few times. And they were getting a little faster. And to a person, over 100 people we talked to in 3 days, I said, if this was voice-enabled, and all you had to say was, can I have a Big Mac, small fry, and a chocolate shake, would that be easier? 100% said yes. So that's the kind of data that we give back to McDonald's for these types of things. To be able to look at the use cases for an average restaurant, a QSR, you have not only the embedded microphone in every kiosk, but every mobile app. You can also look for drive-through opportunities and inside kiosks. So Voice Cafe, Orderscape, launching Q1 with hopefully 100,000 restaurants that are fully enabled. And that's basically where we are today. So that's how we've solved a lot of the problems. That's why we're excited about voice. So I'll take some questions.
Did you guys build the McDonald's app?
I'm sorry?
Are you working on the McDonald's app?
We're working with McDonald's, but not on that app yet.
Okay. I found some flaws when I'm ordering.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if it's constructive criticism, but like I don't do a big match of mayo, and with the app you can't take off things.
Yeah, well, with voice you could,
Okay.
which is one of the reasons we're talking to them. Yes?
How do you handle multiple intents or different ways of ordering something? Like if I went to McDonald's and I ordered a coffee,
Mhm.
I could say, give me 2 coffees, one with cream and sugar and one I like black.
Yeah.
Or I could say, I want 2 coffees, one with cream and sugar, one black.
Yeah.
Or make the other one small.
Mhm. Well, that's the best way to solve that problem is we want to be able to have a thread in our conversation because we want you to be able to say, I want a burger, fries, chocolate shake, all in one utterance, okay? That is very difficult to do. We're getting better at that. So people are going to order their coffees different ways. So we have to map that. This is why we have our data scientists be able to map both those scenarios, and we create aliases along the way as well. So if somebody orders John's famous Caesar salad, at the end of the day, it's just a Caesar salad, but it's branded John's. Our alias has to pick up that John's Caesar salad for John's restaurant really is just a Caesar salad. So we created a series of aliases for that. So we would solve that way. Yes?
So back to the search, what was the thought process guiding the user from the sandwich to the cheese to like why are you?
Well, if you look at how Subway builds sandwiches, they start with the bread. You just kind of go down that line. Now, it doesn't mean you have to follow that process every time. You can just say, I want a tuna salad sandwich. Then it would ask you, what kind of bread do you want? So it has this intelligence, interactive capability to be able to manage that. But pizza is the same way. And it can also ask you, if the last time you ordered tuna sandwich and it was on wheat, it will know that. It'll say, would you like it on wheat again? So it's the learning experience. This is the value proposition of AI and voice, is that once you start using it, the more you use it, we all have our own mini menus. And we follow and track how you order to make it easier for you. But we kind of follow how people order and make sandwiches to start with. The last thing you put on is like the lettuce, right? So we kind of track that. Yes?
What's the scale, like how many people, how many years? You know, you're presenting, we're doing this, like is it 30 people, 3 people?
We have a team of 4.
A team of 4?
Yeah, 3 engineers and me.
Done a couple years by 4 people.
Yeah. And a few consultants here and there, but it's mostly by 4 people. Yes? I'm sorry?
What is powering the search here, like,
You know what's powering? It's our search engine. Yeah, it's something we've developed internally. Our key developers, our CTO, was at Excite for a number of years, so he has some domain expertise there. Yes, I'll get back to you.
In your examples where you showed that search function, it was on Google Assistant where your search results can be visual.
Uh-huh.
So how do you deal with that when someone uses Alexa, Echo, or something like that?
Well, Alexa is a little trickier. We found that it's, for our purposes, to be able to build the portal that we want, Google Assistant is a better use case. Yeah.
Does it just speed back all the
Yeah.
search results?
Yeah, it can.
Like 4 at a time, or because it's easy to glance visually at
Right.
the options.
Yeah. Well, we designed it to be multimodal for a reason. You know, people. It's a great environment to do that. Voice just with the device without context is much harder, unless you know what you want. If you say, if I know I want, a tuna sandwich on rye with hot pepper cheese and tomatoes, that's a little easier for you to do. But if it's a multimodal environment, you can use your combination of your thumbs as well as voice. So you can scroll across the bottom where the ingredients are, or you can just tag one of those as well. So we think multimodal is the way to go. Yes?
How are you providing estimated wait times?
We don't do that because we don't deliver. What we do is we send the order to the restaurant and through the platform. If the platform is set up for delivery, the guest will say, I want to pick it up or I want to have it delivered. If it's tagged delivery, it goes to the restaurant and they send it to either the restaurant as a delivery opportunity, as a token, or it goes right to their delivery partner. So we bifurcate the order for both delivery and pickup. So wait times are something we don't get involved in.
Do you provide reviews for each product?
Not yet. We want to do that. And the big question is, do we want to integrate Yelp reviews? Do we want to have our own internal reviews? And 90% of the folks that we talk to say it's much better for us to have our own reviews internally because that's our data. And we can't be responsible for how people review restaurants through Yelp. Some of them may be accurate, some of them not. So we're not sure yet. Those are coming though.
How do you integrate like daily specials from restaurants?
Yeah, daily specials are always tricky, but whatever hits the point of sale system and that the platform captures and they cache, then we can pick up as well. So data is managed by either the restaurant and or the platform. And if it's managed, every 30 minutes we pull that data. So for fine dining, a lot trickier. And this is not designed for fine dining. Fine dining really isn't entered the delivery space as much as casual dining and QSR and fast casual. So that's going to be a little bit more challenging because they have written menus, for example. They may not even be in the point of sale system. But if it's captured in the point of sale, which most of it is, then we can get it. Yes?
how do you rank in those places like, like 1,000 places?
Oh, that's a really good question. Yeah. You've heard of AdWords, right? Okay, so there it is. Yeah. So if you say, I want a tuna sandwich, and it says, well, how about Jeff's Cafe right around the corner, 50 cents, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So it starts off by what's near you, to be fair, and the concentric circles for trade zones differ, whether it's suburban or urban. And then the second one is who's paying us to be able to promote them. Yeah. And the third one would be reviews. Yeah, so we want to be fair. So our model is quite different. We don't charge the restaurant. We couldn't possibly charge the restaurant. For us to aggregate 100,000 restaurants, we'd have to have 100,000 user agreements, right? So we just push the orders through the platforms to the restaurants for free. So our revenue model is based on consumers paying a service fee. And if they don't want to do that, then it's an AdWords model. So the pain points for the restaurant industry are, I don't want to pay for it because we don't have any money, and I want the data. So if they want the data, they'll pay for it. But we'll send them the order for free.
Are you just
You're full of good questions. So the food service industry is our first domain because we know it, which is hard enough. But our platform will work across any vertical, any catalog. Again, auto parts, retail. It's a search plus commerce protocol. So commerce can mean anything. Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Yep. This will be an app. So our gateways, I mentioned before, we have Google Assistant. You just say open Orderscape, and you'll have access to all of our restaurants. On Alexa, you say Alexa open a branded restaurant, like Alexa open Round Table Pizza or Alexa open Fazoli's. And we'll have branded apps, for example, just like a Chili's app or a Applebee's app. If they want a microphone on their app, we can power just their menu. And the other gateway is our own voice portal. Yes?
So if you power their menu by voice, does the menu, if it's multimodal, actually change with the voice? So if I order French fries, do I see French fries? If I order drinks, do I see drinks? Or,
Yeah.
How does that...
Well, it's more specific. If you order, like the example here, fettuccine Alfredo, what popped up was a kind of a generic fettuccine Alfredo. If it wants to be branded, like if Pepsi wants to have a Pepsi, then we need to get their permission to use those.
Well, I don't mean that. Like if I'm at McDonald's and I order a Big Mac,
Yeah.
or let's just say we're using like Fridays or something, and it comes with different sides. Does it show the item and then the selection of
Sure,
sides?
yeah.
Or, because I noticed most of the apps have drop-downs.
Right, yeah.
Is the drop-down open? I guess that's my question.
Yeah.
How is the voice interacting with the visuals? Or is
Yeah.
that just a whole new paradigm?
No, it interacts with it. I mean, because what you're doing is, in the fettuccine Alfredo example, what it'll ask you is, fettuccine Alfredo, and anything else, okay? It would ask you, it'd like anything else. And if you say, well, what else is there? Because it's full menu, we can actually go through the whole menu. Talk to me about salads, right? And it can walk through that whole laundry list. So it actually guides you through a total ordering from appetizer to entree, through second course, through dessert.
Well, I guess if I said I want a hamburger from Fridays, if they got like 10 different hamburgers, does it switch and show all 10?
No, what it'll do is that it'll ask you, what kind of hamburger would you like? Like a cheeseburger. Would you like anything else on that? Chili. So it kind of walks you through that question and answer period. That's what the discovery aspect of this is. I know where I want Fridays, but I don't know what I want. That's another use case that we can show you. I'll be happy to send you the links to it so you can kind of see how it works and flows. But we're also looking for feedback. So what our food scientists and what we've done is put together these protocols. And we're always learning, and our machine learning is also on top. So they've just given me a wrap up. So I've got to go. Thank you very much.